Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Do you feel stuck, silent, and stressed? Is something hurting your heart and soul? Are you burning yourself out? If so, you are in the right place because this is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with inner peace and joy. Let's get started. Hey, last episode, I finished by asking a very important question. The question was, when somebody hurts us, or we experience some kind of injustice or trauma, and we find ourselves feeling angry, hateful, or other kinds of negative emotions, what is it that we are really needing and wanting? And what are the best ways for us to meet those needs? See, because every feeling that we have, it's basically a feedback message from our hearts and our minds. When we feel good, that's a feedback message from our heart and mind that things are going very well. We are headed in the right direction, all our needs are being met, and so we should keep doing more of what we are doing because it's working. On the other hand, when we experience negative emotion, that is feedback from our inner self that we are not meeting our needs, that there's something off. Okay, maybe we're headed in the wrong direction, or we've lost our way, or something's up, and our needs, we have some core essential needs that are going unmet. So, it's very difficult for us to ignore our feelings. We know what we are feeling. The challenge, though, can come in interpreting those feelings and the messages that those feelings are trying to convey to us. It is so easy for us to misunderstand or to not even be able to understand the messages that our feelings are trying to communicate to us. How many of us, find ourselves feeling confused? Just think about it in terms of your own experience. How many times have you found yourself thinking, I don't know why I'm feeling this way? I don't know why I'm feeling this way. It's like, what does this mean? Right? And unfortunately, the vast majority of us do not have the skills and the tools and the knowledge to be able to connect with our source of inner wisdom and get clear answers about what it is that our feelings are trying to tell us and figure out the appropriate solutions to meet the needs, right? So this is something, this is like such a fundamental challenge and it gets us into all kinds of trouble all the time. So let me get more into that a little bit later. Coming back to the question of, okay, if I'm feeling hateful, if I'm feeling angry in the aftermath of experiencing some kind of injustice, some kind of wrong, someone having hurt me, what is it really that I'm needing and wanting? So of course, if you've been a faithful listener of this podcast for a while, then you know that these questions, these are best answered by our hearts, because this is the area of expertise of our hearts. So in order to prepare for this episode, I actually connected with my heart, and I asked my heart, hey, what was going on with me? Like going back into my own experience and looking back at, when I used to feel angry, when I used to feel hurt, what exactly was going on with me? What was I needing? What was I wanting? So there are three main things that my heart told me that I needed. Number one was just simple acknowledgement that something very wrong has happened and that what has happened is not okay. Just acknowledgement. That was the first thing that I needed. Secondly, I needed to bring whatever wrong had been done or whatever injustice I had experienced or perceived. I needed to bring that to light. See, so it's like it's connected to acknowledgement, right? But acknowledgement is something that just I acknowledge, right? Because a lot of times, but especially if the injustice that you have experienced is something in the nature of a trauma that has a huge emotional impact on you, and you find a lot of times we can find ourselves going into denial around what we have experienced because we find ourselves unable to handle our feelings and deal with our feelings. And that was part of what I had been struggling with too. So it was like, okay, we need acknowledgement. Like I need to acknowledge for myself that, hey, I experienced something really horrible, like something really wrong. It was not right. It was not okay. But bringing the injustice to light, so it's like connected to the acknowledgement, but it's sort of like broadening the scope of the acknowledgement, right? It's sort of like, it's like, okay, once I acknowledge what I experienced was really wrong or it was unjust, but then I keep it to myself, or I don't take action to sort of help make sure that that something is done to prevent that injustice from spreading or from being perpetrated again, then that can become a problem, right? Because we are all interconnected, we are all interdependent, and we care about what's happening around us. We care about the other people in our lives. We have a need for justice, to know that the society, the community that we are living in, the family that we are living in, that there's a sense of equality and fairness, in the way that we treat each other, the thing is that it's like a real deep need that we have, and that's related to our need for justice also, right? So it's like bringing the wrong done to light. Now, in different situations, in different contexts, this can mean different things, and this can look different ways. In some situations, bringing a wrong to light, it may be sufficient that you just connect directly to the person who has hurt you or perpetrated the injustice, and you just confront them. And you're like, look, what you did was not okay, and it hurt me in this way. And hold them accountable for what they did, and that could be enough. In other situations, you may need to sort of bringing to light the injustice may require you to act at a broader scale. So it could be like, this is an injustice that not only I've been personally impacted by, but it is something that perhaps is impacting our entire community. And therefore, to truly bring the injustice to light, because you don't want to just bring it to light for no good reason. You want to bring it to light because we have this need for justice, right? For things to be put right, for people to be treated fairly and all that, right? So if the whatever the injustice is, that if it's affecting the entire community, then maybe we need to bring to light the injustice in front of the entire community, right? So it can look different ways, but the core underlying need here is to bring the wrong done to light, okay? Because that is what allows us to sort of really face up to it, address it, resolve the issue, the challenge around it. In the last episode, I was making this analogy of, in many, many real ways, we can say that hate is like darkness, right? And light is like love. So in what sense? So I was sharing with you the idea that, darkness is not a thing in and of itself. Darkness is merely the result of an absence of light. So light is something. Light is the real thing. Darkness just happens when you have an absence of light. And so in some very real ways, it is also true that hate is not a real thing. Hate is just what emerges or what we experience in the absence of love. Right? And so it's like if we are thinking about eradicating injustice, and hate, then we really need to you cannot eradicate darkness with darkness. You cannot eradicate hate with hate, injustice with injustice. You really need to shine the light of love to eradicate hate. You need to shine the light of justice to eradicate injustice. Right? So it's like, we have this need, to experience justice in our lives. Okay, so this is a very core essential need. Now, number 3, there was one more thing that was like really, really important that my heart said that I really needed, because of which I'd been experiencing anger and hate. And that was that I just needed to feel safe. And I needed to feel loved and cared for. You see, and when you feel safe, when you feel loved and cared for, that is part of what allows you to also feel peace. So I needed to feel peace, right? But it's like, remember, peace is a result. Our feelings are a result. They are feedback. So peace is a result. The feeling of peace is feedback that our inner self is giving us when things are going right, when our needs are being met, our needs to be safe, our need to be loved, our need to be cared for. And so it's like, of course, now if you look at all these needs that we have, that I just outlined or shared with you, in terms of what my heart said I needed, they're all very much interconnected and interrelated, right? Because when we are feeling safe and we are feeling loved and we are feeling cared for, it becomes easy for us to acknowledge and express and share what we're feeling and what we're needing and wanting. And if we have been hurt, to openly and honestly acknowledge that and bring it to light and talk about it and take action, if necessary, with the help and support of our loved ones, to take corrective action. So it's like, okay, all right, well, all of that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so it's like, so now remember, like, for me, the biggest challenge in my life to date, within the context of which I found myself struggling with feelings of hate and anger and even fear, and even just the whole issue of forgiveness, has been in the context of healing from my experience of child sexual abuse. And when you think about it, like, of course it makes a lot of sense, that when I was sexually abused, it violated my sense of safety, violated my sense of being loved and cared for. So of course it disturbed my sense of peace. And because I didn't have the right tools, the right knowledge, the right skills at that time to cope with my feelings in a healthy way, I went into a state of denial, which lasted for several years. Just denying and suppressing how I was feeling, how I was being impacted by the experience, right? And so, of course, it was like that need of acknowledging that something very wrong had happened was going unmet. And because I had also a part of like the sense of overwhelm and the fear that had been generated in me in the aftermath of experiencing the abuse, and the shame and the guilt that I felt, it silenced me, right? And so it was like I was keeping it hidden. I was I didn't tell anyone for years and years and years about what had happened to me. And I was actually really, really concerned that especially my family, what would happen if they found out. But the truth of the matter was that in my context, the most important people who needed to know about what had happened, both from from all the perspectives of all the three needs that I had that were going unmet, the people who were in the best position to help me and support me meet those needs were people in my family, right? Because the person who had hurt me was a member of my family. So, but it was like, okay, because I was silent, I actually, I prevented this injustice from coming to light. Okay, so this was like another big need that went unmet for me, right? Besides and of course the need to be loved and cared for and feel safe, all of that was going unmet because I isolated myself. So I isolated myself. I literally handicapped my own ability to love and be loved when I isolated myself in the ways that I did. And again, now here's the thing. Here's like, you remember at the beginning of the podcast, I was talking about how we feel what we are feeling, and it's very difficult for us to ignore our feelings. But the problem that we can run into is that the vast majority of us either are not able to understand what we are feeling, why we're feeling the way we're feeling, okay? And that's why we get stuck in terms of implementing an effective solution. Or we totally misinterpret what the message is that our feelings are trying to give us, and because we understand the problem incorrectly, we apply incorrect solutions. So this is something I want to talk with you about in a lot more detail. This, how we can misinterpret our feelings and sometimes end up doing things we think we are acting in ways to help that are like our intention is to help ourselves feel better, but what we're doing is very counterproductive. And so I want to give you a concrete example of that from my own experience, and then of course highlight the best solutions that we can implement in this kind of situation. So the question I had raised last episode was two-part. It's like, what are we really needing, okay, when we are feeling angry and hateful? So that was part one, and we talked about that today, okay? Part two of that question was, and so once we figured out what we're needing, what are the best ways for us to meet those needs? What are the solutions? So let's talk about this part two next episode. All right. So by the way, if you have any other thoughts on this question, what is it that we're really needing when we're experiencing the anger and hate and other kinds of negative emotion after we've been hurt? Let me know. I mean, if there's something else that you needed after you got hurt that I didn't identify in my list, let me know. I'd love to share that knowing with you and learn from you. All right, so you know how to get in touch with me. Just go to my website at www.academyofthriving.com, click on the Contact Us page, and you will see how you can connect with me. So until we connect next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.